Hi and welcome to this video where I talk about the aquarium and a little bit of aquaponics. So the way I think I'll structure this video is first I'll show off my little tank here and the rest of the setup and everything, while talking about giving a small little explanation about aquaponics, as in just the concept of it, and then we'll get into a little more detail and hopefully talk about what's the more scientific aspects of the chemistry and biology involved and stuff like that. So watch however long you can and let me know what you think right at the end of it. So let's start off with the tank. Or the entire setup, I know. Why not? So what we have here is basically a bathtub. And this is in my workspace. I should mention that I had an office officially, and then that office became a studio, and then that studio has now become a workshop. So, this is a work in progress, but let me take you through it anyway. So this bathtub was on my terrace, as in on the terrace that I'm renting presently, and basically they renovated the house below, and this was an extra one. So I sealed it up at the bottom and filled it up with water, and started my aquarium hobby, so to speak. But the story of this tank is okay. This is about 2.5 years old, continuously running. It has only guppies in it in terms of fish, if you can really see them. I don't think there's enough light. We could try doing something like that. Are there any? A couple of them, but yeah, there are tons of them. There are really a lot of them. So the story is that I bought I think 15 to 20 guppies way back when, and I put them into this tank. I planted it as best I could, and all these guppies are the progeny of those first 15. So everything here is born out of that one thing. I haven't restocked it. I haven't bought any more new fish, and it's survived really well. They are multiplying a lot. You can see quite a few babies all over the place that swim. You can see quite a few here, tiny ones. But yeah, so that's the tank, and the rest of the setup is here. This is the entire aquaponics thing, and it's basically just two boxes, two food grade type of boxes, and the way this works is this pump is, as in this is a 30-watt submersible water pump. So that actually had a filter connected, but I've removed the filter as of now. I'll explain why in a minute. But this is connected out through plumbing pipes, and it splits up into two different directions. We'll follow that one. It goes up through this check valve and through this flow meter. It's an electronic flow meter. As of now, it's not connected to anything. It's just like there. But it will be soon once I do the rest of the electronics. But that is connected through a set of fittings that go through this, through basically a hole in this plastic container, and basically flows inside. So let's just open the lid here. You'll notice that everything is empty, as in alright. So basically what happens here is the water flows in here. The reason there's a check valve there is I don't want the speed of this to be too much. If it is too much, then it'll start churning up the water. But the idea of this tank is it's a sedimentation kind of tank. So if you look at the bottom, it is actually rather dirty. Now, so the idea is that the speed of the water, you can actually see the water flow. Can you? Ish. Reflection. There's a bulb. Can you see the reflection? Okay, yeah. So you can see the water flow kind of, right? in that here, in that kind of direction. But it is a very slow speed. And the reason for that is if it's any faster than whatever sediments and whatever debris, so to speak, is in there, will directly flow into this thing as fast as possible. But we want for it to flow and all the heavy stuff to fall down, and just the water, just the top layer of the water to continue flowing through, which it seems to be doing quite well. As a side, well, let's call it benefit for now, you might be able to see some tiny fish in here. Can you see any? Just when you want to see it, it all disappears. But yeah, it's filthy here, yeah? And that's kind of the point of this tank. Here you can see one or two some of the small fish. Now that has gotten through my the filter at the bottom. I mean, not really a filter anymore, just the covering of the, as in the grate of the inlet pipe, and coming through all this way. I keep taking fish out of these and putting it back there. But yeah, so as of now, this one fills up and then flows out through here, through this pipe, and goes into this tank, this box, let's call it. So what this box is if you notice at the bottom, there's actually a lot of gravel. So all this, as in those are basically jalli-kalu. And on top of that, this material is called coco peat. I'll explain what coco peat is, but before that, just in terms of the filtration itself, this water, you can actually kind of see a lot of water actually flowing in at all times. That flows onto the stones, and there's basically a bed. Okay, can you see this? This is like a viewing window. But anyway, so basically here at this level, till somewhere here, there are these stones, right? So to that thickness, and with the idea is that the water flows down and through the stones and out. It's not really flowing through the rest of the system on top. So when it is here, the idea is that they actually there is a piece of cloth. All right, and I'm not going to the type of cloth and stuff, but the idea is that the water kind of stays below this, and the cloth is obviously going to get wet. It's not going to stay dry, and this particular material is called, as I mentioned, coco peat. And coco peat is effectively ground up cocoa husk and other things that you get while making coir, and while separating out the coir from the husk and things like that, right? You have a lot of dust. So it is that dust, and the good thing about that dust is it absorbs and holds water really well, and absorbs water actually very, very well. So now, since the water level here is actually somewhere there, right? So the water flows down and flows out through here. The water level never rises up above that, because that's where the outflow pipe is. That's the height of the outflow pipe. So the cloth gets wet, and the water gets kind of wicked up through basically capillary forces and things like that into the coco peat itself, which makes this rather moist, right? It's not a dry substance anymore. It's wet, but it's not soggy. And so the idea is that plants should be able to grow in this kind of a medium. This is not soil, right? It is a separate material called coco peat, and the reason we use coco peat here is it's because it's neutral. It does not add anything extra to the system itself. And when I say extra, okay, now let's talk about a little more of the filtration part of it, right? So the fish obviously have a lot of poop, and they pee a lot, and whatever other bodily functions that it has and things like that, inclusive of other fish that have possibly died and sunk to the bottom, or plants that are kind of decaying, and whatever other decomposition that happens, etc., etc., etc. So all of that stuff is stuck in this one tank. It's not leaving here in any way. So that is being pumped up, and so that goes through basically all of these systems. So there it removes most of the debris kind of, and here it does a proper solid filtration of this thing. And so the water is going to be filtered out clean, hopefully. whether this is an aquaponic system or no. So this should work as a regular filtration system for my aquarium. And in that kind of a situation, if I put soil in here, it's effectively adding a lot more fertilizer and other whatever else is there in the soil, which is twigs and stuff like that, right? So all that extra decomposition that's going to happen here is going to leach back into my aquarium, which is going to make the water even dirtier, in air quotes. So that is where that is why we use the cocoa peat. Now the idea is that since this, as of now, it's still not removing any of the chemicals, because ultimately this cocoa peat is just becoming saturated with whatever extra chemicals there are. And by those extra chemicals, I mean things like ammonia, which is being released from basically, okay, kind of weird, but when you pee, the smell that you get, the smell that you actually hate, is actually the ammonia, right? So that is very toxic, and especially in in higher concentrations. So for most fish and humans actually. So the idea here is that the ammonia and everything that is created here, you'll notice that there is a lot of algae, right? And as soon as you basically have a tank running for a while, a lot of beneficial bacteria start to grow. And you don't have to introduce the bacteria or do anything like that. They are naturally occurring in most places. They just start to spread a lot more if there is an abundance of this ammonia and things like that. What they do is they break down the ammonia into nitrites, ITES, which is then further broken down into nitrates, ATES. So it's ammonia to nitrites to nitrates. And when a system has a lot of nitrates, basically the water is very fertile, right? It's not basically your pee and poop, so to speak, is not directly fertilizer. It has to go through a basic breakdown process of naturally occurring bacteria, which break them down into these components, which can then basically then the water becomes very fertile. And right now the bottom of this tank is completely green and black at this point, is because of the amount of algae there. And the algae grows wherever there's a lot of obviously where there's a lot of water and a lot of fertile soil or fertile compounds. So this is where the aquaponics comes in now. So as of now, I've explained to you the filtration system. How do we improve on this one filtration system? Now we've realized that the ammonia is being broken down into the nitrates, which is now in super high concentrations. The cool thing is, like I said, that is what is absorbed by the plants to grow. So instead of having these plants and the algae and things like that, what the idea of aquaponics is to have plants in here and have plants in here. And because this soil is, as in this water and cocoa peat is so enriched in this one nitrate and other, basically it's so fertile, the plants grow super quick. They grow way faster than if you plant them outside. This is for two reasons. One, the water is, as in the plants are being fed directly through water, as compared to going through, which is basically trickling through the mud and all of that, and that kind of a process. This becomes faster, is just a little more efficient. This is again effectively the same thing. It doesn't act like the mud here. It basically acts as the wicking system for the roots to get the water really, really quick. So that's the idea of the entire aquaponic system, right? And this has gone on for about 14 minutes. Now, the future of this particular setup, what I intend to do after this. I have a few plants that are germinated, as in I bought the seeds and all of that stuff, and so these are basil plants, a lot of them, and these two things are a cabbage called bok choy. It's a Chinese-y thing, and the hope is that I will put these plants in here and there, and they will grow super quick. Initially we will be checking for a lot of parameters, which is why there are electronic sensors there. I will be checking temperature, humidity, and stuff like that. The amount of, as in how wet this cocoa peat actually is. Can we do anything about it? Stuff like that. All the chemical tests involved for in terms of keeping the aquarium and the aquaponics system running, which is a pH test. Initially, the water should be at a certain pH which the fish like and the plants like and things like that. So the pH is important. Then the amount of ammonia. If there is a lot of ammonia, it means it's not been broken down yet, which means there is not enough bacteria, which is a problem, or that basically means there are too many fish or something like that. Then you have nitrites. If it breaks down into nitrites and doesn't yet break down into nitrates, then that's an issue as well. So we test for that. So then ultimately we're testing for the nitrates as well, which is still poisonous to the fish, as in too much nitrates and higher quantities is not good for the fish. So we need to take the nitrates out. And right now it's being done by mostly those plants that are growing underwater, that are growing super wild because it's that fertile. So instead of those plants growing, the idea is that we will put bok choy and basil in those two things. They're not like separate. We'll, I don't know, do something. But the idea is that, yeah, the bok choy and the basil start growing really quick, gaining a lot, as in basically sucking a lot of the nitrates out of the system and becoming useful basil leaf and bok choy thing. I actually haven't seen the vegetable. So this should be an interesting grow. Yeah. So this is the idea of an aquaponics system on a very basic level. The chemistry behind it. So the plan of action next after this initial basic setup of this entire thing. This system has been running for about 4 to 5 weeks ish. And without the plants and things like that, mostly to allow for the system to run, to allow for a few checks. First of all, to make sure that nothing leaks from anywhere, to make sure that my system suddenly doesn't just like disappear overnight or something, or land up on the floor or something. So that then to check if the cocoa peat itself is affecting the system in any way. It supposedly does affect the pH and stuff like that, so I have been testing for that. Other than that, the nitrates, nitrites, all of that stuff has been continually checked in terms of parts per million and all of those things. And yes, so yeah, that's it. So the next step would be the planting. So wish me luck for that, and I will keep you people updated on the growth and everything. I will be hopefully maintaining. I do have a log of when I do what and things like that, but hopefully it'll be scientific enough to understand this a whole lot better. At the same time, might as well mention this something called hydroponics, which is basically minus the fish, right? It's all of this system with the water circulating and stuff, but instead of getting the debris and whatever other nitrates from the fish, you literally add them to the water itself. So you basically get chemical fertilizers and you add them to the water, specific ones, not just random ones. And because of that, the plants still grow faster because it's growing in water. So that is a system that I also want to try out, just to see how fast it is, just to see understand the mechanisms and the chemistry behind it and stuff like that, and see if it actually grows well, try out different plants. And yeah, I want to do a test as in a control as well, so I will probably put at least like a couple of the basil in like a regular pot outside on the terrace, and just like have it grow and see which one grows faster, because we need to know. But yeah, so this is Aquaponics. Welcome to Aquaponics. Let's hope that a few of you are interested in possibly try setting up a smaller system if necessary at home, and just to see how things go. If you already have an aquarium, this is, as in adding the plumbing and stuff shouldn't be too difficult. There are quite a few DIY type of videos online which you can check and understand how to do it, which is exactly how I did it. So yeah. If you have any questions, please, yeah, of course, ask them, and I will try to answer them best I can. Till the next time, thank you.